All right, welcome everybody. This is another installment of Jay's Analysis. I've been on with Sammy many times. He's been gracious enough to have me over on his channel. It's a great channel. I've been listening to it for years, watching all those great interviews. And, we haven't done an interview over here on my channel. So he was, again, gracious enough to come and join me. We're going to be talking to Sammy the Bull Gravano. You may or may not know of him. I'm sure most people have heard of him. He is probably one of the most famous, if not the most famous living gangster today. I would say he probably is. He is known, of course, for his history with the Gambino family, with his status as an underboss to John Gotti. This is, again, probably one of the most famous cases in all the history of the Mafia. Sammy the Bull, I want to start, if we can, with your background. I know you've told this story many times, but tell us about your origin story. How did you come out of where you were as a small-time guy, moving into this very important status with the Gambinos?
Yeah, well, there's, a couple of things. I got made in 1976. I was switched from the Colombo family. I was an associate with them. I got switched over about 1971 when I got married. And eventually in 1976, I became a made guy. 1 year later, 1977, Tato, who was my captain, made me his acting captain. My status went up. But I was still like a neighborhood guy. I was still doing a lot of things. I got pretty close with Paul Castellano because he loved construction, and I was pretty powerful with some unions and in the construction business. So my status started to grow. But it really went through the roof that a war broke out in Philadelphia. Angelo Bruno, who was the boss, they used to call him the Gentle Don, was killed, and there was a power grab. And his underboss, Phil the Chicken Man Tester, was killed, and Johnny Keys, Angelo Bruno's cousin, was a very powerful captain, very smart guy, tough guy. He did 50 hits, supposedly, he had under his belt. And he had a bunch of guys, about 20 to 30 guys on his side. And it wound up on the other side was Nicky Scoffo. And the seems like the commission was backing Nicky Scoffo to win the war. Two guys in Tato's crew, Pal Joey and Nicky Russo, were seen talking to Johnny Keys in a restaurant. They bumped into each other and they were talking. They weren't talking about the war, but they were talking. And the commission found out about it. When Paul went into a commission meeting, they accused him of backing the wrong side, which really wasn't true. So he denied it, but they told him, well, if your guys could meet with him, then you got the hit. And he got the hit. He called in Nicky and Joey with my captain, Tato. And we had a meeting with Paul Castellano. And in that meeting, I was just a driver. I was playing cards. Tato said, Sammy, stop playing cards. Somebody take his hand. Drive me to the boss's house. I drove him there. And he exploded with Nicky and Joey. And I was standing on the side. I was just a driver and maybe security. And he leaned over Tato's shoulder a little bit. And he looked at me and he said, Sammy, could you take him out? Meaning Johnny Keys. And I said, I don't know. I mean, I know what's going on, but I don't know him. I never saw him, never met him. He's in New Jersey somewhere. I've never been there. But if I have some information on him, yeah, I could probably take him out. And he said, do you need money, guns, shooters? I said, no. I got my own crew. And then he turned around to Nicky Russo and Pal Joey, and he says, you guys know Johnny Keys. Show him pictures of him to Sammy. And show him where he stays and hanging out and where you met with him and all this stuff. And you guys are on the hit. You're under Sammy. He's running this. Well, P.S. I'm not going to talk too much about it because they're making a movie about it now, as we speak. But bottom line is, it was a mission impossible. They couldn't get him. And now I had this hit with my crew. And P.S. I got it done. I took him out. And my name, in a commission meeting, Paul Castellano told me that obviously we had the hit and that he told the bosses, underbosses, and the concierge of every family, the whole 5 families in New York, that Sammy's got the hit. Unbeknownst to me. So when I got it done, they all knew this Mission Impossible hit was. My stature rose amongst bosses in a very, very big way at that point. No matter where I went to a meeting, hey, Sammy, how are you? This and that. Great job. And I was talking about construction. They were talking about the hit. And so my stature rose at that point. My name went easy at that point. And I think that's really brought me to a whole nother level.
And this is that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This is that crucial period when tell me if this is correct. The story is that, at least the public story is that Paul Castellano was a little too ostentatious. He was a businessman. He wasn't running things the way that it needed to be done in a more subtle way. And so there were moves being made to displace Paul Castellano. You were there involved in that. They're giving you this keys hit, right? This then gives you a new sort of a newfound fame, I guess you could say, amongst the families. Is that correct?
Yeah, it did. But the hit with Johnny Keys was in 1980. So the other problem happened in 1985. John Gotti and Angelo Ruggiero got caught on tapes. It was a whole problem. And I had met Angelo Ruggiero, a guy, guy told me he wanted to talk to me in Queens. I went to Queens and meet him. And he says, Sammy, we're going to kill Paul. They were in trouble. They got caught on tapes. They were dealing drugs. They were talking about the commission. They talked about everything. And they couldn't give up the tapes, obviously. It was a bad problem.
Can I ask you a question about that? Because, that these the documentaries and the books, they talk about this situation where the FBI had they had gone into, I think it was Paul Castellano's kitchen, and they had set up these taps there in the kitchen in his house. That was all done kind of outside of law. But this led to this problem with Paul Castellano, right? So you guys are basically in this situation where you felt like we got to do something here. Is that how it went down?
Well, not exactly, but Angelo's tapes and John's tapes they brought them to different judges all over the place. And they showed the tapes, which made the judges authorize bugging Paul Castellano's house, everybody's house.
Gotcha.
Because this is how the commission case started against all the bosses and everybody. It started with Angelo's tapes. It gave the government the right to bug people's houses. Now, when they bugged Paul's house, they were brilliant. He had a dog there all the time, people there all the time, a maid. They screwed up the television. And he told Tommy Bellotti, call up a television guy. Something's wrong with the TV.
Yes.
They intercepted that call. They made believe they were a television repair company. They came in. He was an FBI agent. He had a box. He looked at the television. He went in the television and took out a tube or something and put a new tube in there and a bug right in the television. And that's how they bugged his house. And, this is what when Paul went crazy he wanted those tapes. How did they get authority to do these things? And John Gotti and Angelo Ruggiero had a big problem. And this is where I go to that meeting with Angelo Ruggiero. And we all knew about his problems and everything that was going on. And he had told me, Sammy, I need your help. Me and John. I said, to do what? He said, to kill Paul. He's the boss of bosses. You're going to kill the boss of bosses. And anyway, long story short, I didn't agree with it. I went to Frankie DeChico, told him about the meeting I had with Angelo, what they're doing, what they're thinking about doing. And Frankie DeChico kind of like said, Paul made a lot of bad moves. Like you said, he was more of a businessman than he was more of a racketeer than a gangster. And there's a lot of things that led up to that. We had a meeting in his house one time with all the heavyweights, Roy DeMeo, Frankie DeChico, John Gotti, myself, and on and on and on. And Paul said, you know who the real tough guys are? We were all sitting at this long table in his house. And he said, the cops. They get a call, domestic violence, they go in, they don't know what they're up against. I mean, that's a hell of a thing to tell guys who are all shooters, and the cops are the tough guy. Well, long story short, when we were walking out of the house, Roy DeMeo said it pretty loud. We heard it. Paul was right behind us. I'm sure he heard it too. Roy DeMeo said, well, next time he wants somebody killed, he should call the cops. It was like a slap in the face to us. And I'm sure he was right in a sense. It is a tough job on a cop. We all understand that. But it's not a thing to say to your guys who go on the street and do this stuff. And I'm sure if a cop turned around and told a bunch of cops, you know who the real tough guys are? The mob.
The mob.
So no cop in his right mind would like that. And so that, started a lot of waves on top of waves with him. So Frankie DeChico convinced me that it was time to save John Gotti and his crew to go. And we could make John the boss. Frankie DeChico could be the underboss. I would immediately become a captain, eventually become the consigliere of the family, and we'll take it over.
Everybody always loves, just a little bit of a side trek here, everybody always loves to ask questions to, people in your situation about the fictional versions of stuff. This reminds me of the situation in The Sopranos. I don't know if you've seen it, maybe you have, but, they have this sequence where eventually Tony's house gets bugged, people come in, and I remember thinking Paul Castellano's house looked exactly like Tony Soprano's house. It's kind of this big estate. And the FBI has this false pretense by which they come in, they bug the house, and in that sequence, Tony's meeting in his basement and he's discussing things versus wherever Paul Castellano was having these conversations. Do you find that shows like that, for example, is that fairly accurate? I know that's based on like the Cavalcante family, but what do you think about shows like? We dropped Sammy for a second here, so. All right, we got you back.
Cavalcanti, a lot of fic. And the Cavalcanti wasn't one of the main families. It was a small, weak family in Jersey. And I think they did a great job. I didn't see it all because different parts of it, I was in prison. They didn't show it. And sometimes I did see it. But I think they did a great job. But they're basing things. I don't know if you remember, I don't remember what movie it is, where have a problem in a bar and there's a fight. The guy closes the door and says, now you can't leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was based on me. I had a problem with bikers in my bar, after hour club, and same thing happened. I broke my ankle, the whole thing. They actually based my story in that movie. So they play with stuff. That's Hollywood.
Now I've watched a couple. I watched a couple of the films based on you and characters. There's that one with the John Gotti movie with John Travolta, and then there's another TV movie, and you of course play key roles in those stories. But I think you've said in the past you didn't really care for those. You didn't think they were very good portrayals. Is that what you said?
Yeah, the first Gotti movie with Amar Desante or
Yeah.
whatever his name is, that one was great. He was a great John. That was really, really done well. I forgot who played me. It didn't even look like me or nothing. But so, but the second one, Gotti movie, was horrible. John Gotti Jr. Told them, advised them, you know the part where the guy comes from the dark area and shoots a guy in the bar? Well, John's not the guy who did that. So there's a lot of lies in that. People knew the story. You know, it's one thing to exaggerate or make, the movie for Hollywood. You could understand that. You could even enjoy it. But it's another thing just to out and out lie about certain issues. And it was boring. I was talking to producers and they said, Sammy, go see that John Travolta, the Gotti movie. And I didn't want to go. He said, you got to go. They're going to be asking you questions about it and everything. So I said, all right. And I went. I was in Arizona to a movie theater during the day and the afternoon. There were 7 people in the whole movie. I remember there was a couple, I don't know if boyfriend and girlfriend or husband and wife. They were sitting a row behind me and about 4 or 5 seats. And I hear her saying, the movie was so confusing. Guys running around, you don't know who's who or what's going on. So I hear her saying to her husband or boyfriend, who are they? I don't even know who they are. There's all these guys running around. Names, who are they? She didn't understand. And I was so tempted, I wanted to turn around and say, sweetheart, my name is Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano. I don't know who the fuck they are. I don't know why you should know. So
You're basically in it and you don't know what's going on. That's funny.
right. So it was so out of what really happened. It was like seeing a comic movie or something. And I never saw. There's people who evaluate the movie and stuff like that. There's all kinds of different organizations, Rotten Tomatoes, all kinds of people. Everybody gave it a 0. 18 people all gave it a 0. Never happened in Hollywood ever. So that should tell you how bad the movie was. I think they put up $10 million to do the movie. They made back 4. They lost 6. And then they try to sell, the DVD, whatever it is. And they must have made it maybe another $1 million. So instead of losing 6, they lost 5. I mean, how does a $10 million movie like that
Yeah.
lose half the money? I mean,
Well,
it was horrible.
yeah. Now, hopefully, I think we're looking forward to the movie that's coming out. That's going to be based on your story. That's going to be exciting to see. Aside from that, what's a film that you really think is super accurate in its portrayal? A lot of people say Goodfellas is pretty accurate. Is there anything that comes to mind that you think is pretty accurate? The original Godfather trilogy. What in your mind is the most accurate?
Well, the Godfather trilogy, the Godfather was very accurate. And I'll tell you why. Not so much for the fights and the shootings and stuff. They showed a lot of family, how we thought. The weddings, the family part, when his daughter's getting married, how they come over and they celebrate, congratulate him. Things like that. It's not just about, bang it up, shoot it up, banging all kinds of broads, money. It was about our life. We're not just doing all that stuff. We do it, but not everything. Goodfellas was another one that I thought was very good because I knew that whole crew. Me and John Gotti, when Paul Vario, the head of that crew, died, me and John are caught on tape. We went to his funeral. So I knew a lot of the people in that crew. Jimmy the Gent I didn't know him personally, but I knew all about him. The guy Tommy that they killed, who was a little bit of, go get your shoebox, shine box. So I knew a lot of them, so I thought that was pretty, authentic. And that's what I like. I think that's what people really want to hear. When I'm talking to my producers and people, and I'm a producer as well. So I'm partners on the show. I have a lot of pull in the show. which, I'm satisfied with that because I want a lot of truth in it. I told my producers and people who I'm partners with is that everything I good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to sit and when this is done, and I want to watch it. There's certain parts I know I'm going to cringe. I'm not going to like it, but I don't want you to delete it. I wanted the audience to see the show. This is not based on a true story. This is a true story, even if it bothers me. Or otherwise, it's not even worth doing. If we're going to make a comedy out of it, then let's make a comedy, and we don't do a show. So, thank God, some of the people I'm working with, they're working. Like I'm going to say one of them, Nick Pileggi. He loves a lot of he does research. He loves the truth in a story, and I think that he's done the Goodfellas. So that's what he does. He goes for the jugular vein. He goes for a true story so you can enjoy it and you hear something that's not just a complete. And I'm not knocking, Sopranos. It was very well done, but a lot of it wasn't true. I also knew the Jersey family that it was based on, and they weren't exactly like that. But they had a lot of leadway. They could have did anything they wanted, and it was done good. It was done great. There was a lot of people. The actors were great. They paid attention to detail. Guys who had not only are they Italian, they had that Brooklyn accent. A lot of times they go get guys from other countries and they're playing an Italian guy, and you could hear the difference, or they over exaggerate. The guys take it. We don't really talk like that, so I don't even want to hear those movies.
Well, let me ask you a question about that to get back to your life. So, in the case of like The Sopranos, you have Tony involved in 2 or 3 businesses for the most of the seasons. He's involved in construction eventually by season 2 or 3, and they've been doing waste management. Now, you have a lot of experience with that time in construction. I think a lot of people don't really know what the relationship of organized crime to something like construction was. And although that might sound not that interesting to some people, I've heard you tell a lot of stories that are really fascinating about how you would have to, figure out the psychology of the people that you're talking to, and you would have to kind of play on their weaknesses, their strengths. Could you discuss a little bit about what was this relationship of construction to what you were? Why construction? Why is that a thing that the mob's involved in?
Construction. I was a laborer, a carpenter at different times in my life, so I hard work all my life. I knew construction. I dealt with unions before I was in the Mafia, so I knew how to play with them, bribe them, do certain things. So when I got made and I was more powerful, I became stronger with the unions. It was right up my alley, and Paul loved it. He had somebody now who understood that. I'll give you an example. They had the concrete club. And I was going to go to a meeting. He said, Sammy, go to this meeting. There's going to be all heavyweights there, but you're representing me. I said, fine. I went. When I got in the house, we went in the basement, and I was shocked because Fat Tony was sitting there. He's a boss of a family. Tony Ducks was there. He's a boss. I mean, somebody was heading the Colombo. He wasn't a boss, but he was a major guy, and he was heading for them. And I'm sitting there with heading the Gambino family. So Fat Tony said, Sammy, I was young. He says, you're a good-looking guy. What do you want to say? All these old farts. He says, why don't you go out and so fuck some broads or something? And he started laughing. We all laughed. And he made me feel really comfortable. I wasn't really comfortable sitting with bosses. I'm just an acting captain. And I'm new to the whole thing. So then it went to Tony Ducks, and he said, Sammy, you might be a little intimidated that we're all bosses here. He said, don't feel like that. Paul sent you here and sent you here for a reason. When we're looking at you, we're looking at Paul. You're a boss. Don't be afraid to talk. Say what you think. me more comfortable too. And I had a great conversation with them. They wanted to take all their power, the different families, every union that they were controlling in the construction business, and control the whole and get so much money per job and give it to the people that they know they get kickbacks from. So it was enormous. And when I left, I went back the following day and I went straight to Paul's house. And he said, Sammy, tell me how the thing go. I said, Fat Tony, they were joking. I told all of that. They made me feel really comfortable. Yeah, they're good guys. I knew that would happen. He said, what'd you think? I was a little reluctant to say what I actually thought, but I figured, fuck it, I'm going to that meeting. That's what I'm there for. So I says, I don't know if you're going to like what I say. Well, tell me. I think we're all going to go to jail. It's too big. We're controlling every single contractor and every single construction job over $2 million in Manhattan. It's too big. A lot of these contractors and people, they know politicians, they're bribing them, everybody's making money. We come in and we upset the whole thing. They're going to go back to congressmen and senators that they talk to and know, the FBI. I think we're all going to go to jail. He said, good, good. I'm going to pull you off. I'm going to put somebody else to do that job. And so I said, Paul, I'm not worried about going to jail. I'm just telling you the truth. He said, I know. He said, the guy before you who was going there, do you know what he told me? I said, he said, this is great, Paul. We're going to make tons and tons of money. What you told me is the fucking truth. I believe we're all going to go to jail too. So I want to protect you and put you somewhere to me. And I understood what he was saying. And then I said, Paul, I'll go anyway. I don't want to be, no, Sammy, I need you in other places. Then I said, Paul, then why are we going into it? Why don't we just say we want nothing to do with it? And he said, we can't because of Cosa Nostra. All the families are represented. If we're not, we're the outsider. I don't want that. We have to be part of it. We'll try and slow it down a little bit. I will with my next guy, as far as let's not get too greedy here. I will tell them exactly what you told me. But more than likely, they won't listen. Greed overcomes fear and all of these things. So, and like you said, I had a way in business. Everybody thinks because I was dangerous that everybody would, be afraid to talk to me. No, but these guys ain't afraid of me. No matter how tough you are, how dangerous you are. Everybody's dangerous in the Mafia. But I didn't look at it that way because here's the way I looked at it. I'm an overthinker. Let's say you're a contractor. I know what you want, and I know what I want. So I'm already thinking for you. I can't say X, Y, Z because I know you're not going to like it. If I was you, I wouldn't like it. So I try to be you and me at the same time. And I try to find the middle somewhere where we both walk away happy. That started building my reputation as a business guy and as a negotiator in, with other families and stuff like that. They weren't intimidated to sit with me. They weren't afraid of me, first of all. I can't do nothing no matter how tough you are. You do something to a boss or anybody on that level, you're going to get killed. So nobody's that stupid, not me anyway. And so that was what really started to raise my, value. The Johnny Keys hit, my business thinking, especially in the construction business. I give you another example in business. We had a job. I had a job with a Jewish contractor, and he made me partners with him. I was smart. I was able to, if he had union problems, I would solve them. I also had 200 carpenters working for me. I had a drywall company. So if he needed 20 men, boom, I could get him 20 men tomorrow morning. I could work union and I could work non-union without problems. So I was an asset. So one day I'm in my office and this project, they call it a bastard. Everything that could happen wrong happened. You buy nuts and bolts, the nut, the didn't fit on it. Everything is a problem. Everything you could happen to go wrong goes wrong. And he said, Sammy, we're going to lose a lot of money on this job. My brother-in-law, Eddie, was sitting on the side of me. He was a maid guy. And I said, well, how much you think, at my end, how much you think I'm going to lose? I don't know, 300,000, maybe a little more. Wow. So I said, all right, let's go in and knock the shit out of it. See if we could keep that number down as low as possible. So instead of me losing 300, maybe I'll lose 100. All right, Sammy, we'll try and knock it dead. He hung up. My brother-in-law said, Sammy, there's no contract. And he's a Jew. What is he going to do? You don't have to pay him. I said, yeah, I could do that. You're right. Never deal with me again. Why would anybody want to go partners with me? I'm going to take when it's good, and I'm not going to put in when it's bad. Who's going to ever deal with me again? These guys ain't stupid. You could only beat them once. And I end up paying a little over $250,000. And we finished the job. And we walked away, we shook hands. About a month or so or two later, another Jewish contractor called me up and he was talking to me and he said, Sammy, I heard you took a beating on a job with he said the guy's name. I said, yeah, a little bit. He said, what, about 350,000? So I said, no, not exactly. I lost about 250. And then he said, you're a different kind of gangster. I said, what do you mean? He said, you paid it. You paid it. Guys they'd walk away from you. They ain't going to pay it. But you paid it. That's honorable. I said, that's the way I do business. He said, the job going on. I'd like to see if you want to come in with me. I said, okay. I went in with him. Long story short, I made $750,000 on his job. And I turned to my brother-in-law. Do you think they're both Jews? They know each other real well. Do you think this guy would have gave me this job if I wouldn't have paid that $250,000? He wouldn't have came near me with a 10-foot pole. Eddie, you always greed and being selfish. It's about your reputation. I put my hand out. I shake my hand with somebody. I want to live up to it. If it's good or it's bad. It's actually even better if it's bad, if it's not too bad anyway. I lose a few dollars. That gives me a better reputation with people. They trust me. And they'll work with me. This isn't the street on the gangster. I want to shake some store owner down for $200 a week or some shit. Your name goes out there of what you are and what you do. So a lot of people think it was just because of that I had a violent past, that's what brought me to that level. So it wasn't just that. It was how you connect yourself with people, what you do with people, how you act. I'll give you another quick example. Fat Tony, he had this window scam, there was a case, the Windows case. I didn't get pinched on it, but I went down. They had all the windows in the city of New York and all of city-owned buildings were changing the windows. The guy who was going to give out the contracts working in the city was close to the Genovese people. So their people were getting all them contracts. John Gotti said, go talk with them. My brother Peter's got a guy who does windows and he can't get a job. See if you could get him work. So I went down to meet Benny. When I went with a captain I was higher ranking already. I think I was the Cunziata family by that time, and he was there. So I said, Tony, Benny Ames. I said, Benny, who's all these guys, bro? He said, they're my guys. I need them here because I don't understand the construction. And you're pretty smart, Sammy, with sit downs. I said, no, I don't like it. I resent it. I'm in a club with 10, 12 of you guys are breathing down my neck. If you come, but I put 15 guys around you, are you going to be happy I did that? I didn't come here to rob you. You don't need them. I'm your friend. We're friends. I'm going to ask you for a favor. All right, everybody clear the room. He said, what is it? He said, you have these windows. Everybody gives you $2 a window that goes in. And they're putting in 2,000, 10,000 windows. I don't know what they're doing. John Gotti's brother's got a guy who's got a window business. He wants to come in. I came here because it's yours. If he gets work, he'll give you the $2 a window that you're getting too. So I'm not want to take anything from you. We just need a little help for him, for John's brother. And he's a boss. Oh, Sammy, that's fair. He'll pay? Yeah, I'll make him pay. I'll tell him he's got to pay $2 a window. So to you guys, that's your thing. I don't want to disturb it. Oh, that's pretty fair. It's a two-way street. I control a lot of unions, bro. Your people, somebody around you may bunk into me someday and can't get to first base. And then you come to me and say, Sammy, I know the guy good. I'm making a living with him. Could you get him the job? I may turn around and say, okay, you got to pay X, Y, Z. That's what we're getting from everybody. Maybe I'll give you even a little bit of a break because of you. So that's the way it's done, Ben. All right, Sam, that's great. So I went back to John, and John says, he's got to pay? Yeah, it's because we do the same thing. We charge people when it comes in our area. We both pay. And the guy's going to get the job. Let him go get the job. He pays. What's the difference, John? Oh, yeah, you're right. And we did that. Now, no arguments, no beefs. And I was one meeting, I'm out. Windows, they got pinched. Benny Eggs and everybody else. Benny the prison on that thing. Because constant talking. I didn't get caught in that meeting. It talks. I wasn't in it, so I didn't get arrested. But that's things I did. So when I went down, I'm not looking to take any. It's his. So if I go down, I don't want to pay. I just want John wants a favor. Maybe he would do it. But he wouldn't be happy about doing it. I wouldn't be. If you come to me, when I'm getting paid, I'm giving John his end, me my end, and whatever union guy is there, I'm giving him something so he's not a pain in the ass. It all works. If you think like that, it flows. And that's the way I thought. I was a good negotiator with people because I thought about them, the guy I'm negotiating with.
Yeah, that element of negotiation, that element of being a competent businessman. I've listened to a lot of your interviews, and one thing that stuck in my head that you said in one of your talks and your podcast was that you were talking about being kind of like a chess player, that the vantage point that you see all of these different things that you're having to navigate. You've got this dark side of the crime stuff over here. You got business stuff going on over here. You've got other things going on over here in your personal life. You got to manage all of this, and you're sort of like playing chess with understanding human motivations and psychology. And I remember in one of your podcasts, you said something like that you figured out at one point that what you really had to do was be a good psychologist. You had to figure out people's motivations. You had to figure out one step ahead what they're doing, 2 steps, 3 steps ahead. And you said something, I don't know the exact quote, but you said something like, I realized that what I was doing, a lot of people didn't see me as a bad guy, but they wanted to see me as their friend and as a good guy, and that you said something like you could play on that. I thought that was a really insightful psychological analysis that you had of human motivations.
Yeah. And let's go back to a chess game. I don't know how the audience understands chess, but a guy comes out and he moves his horse. 1, 2, 3. He moved his horse. So when I look at it, I don't know why, but I want to know what's in his head. Why did he move that? He's going to come and kill my king. That's the name of the game. And I kill his king. That's checkmate. So when he moved the horse, I'm trying to figure what's the back moves. He moved that horse for a reason to this spot. What's his next move? And how would that put my king in jeopardy of a game? So the chess game that I got to learn and I played a lot was a game of life. No different. You got to think of the guy's move. Why did he make this move? Why did he say this thing? Why did he do this? And when you understand it, you have a better chance of winning the game or at least tying in the game. But if you just go in, I don't care, I'm going to make this move. No, I'm not going to make that move so quick. I want to know why he made that move. What's his next move? And if I make this move, can I get hurt in some certain way? So it's life is a game of chess. Husbands, wives, everything. People ask me for advice away from construction. Sammy, I'm having a problem with my husband, or I'm having a problem with my wife. And I analyze it. And I say all these things about life in general and how, I don't just have trouble with women. I understand women and what they are. From my mother, who I think was the best woman on the. She was caring, loving. She helped people all the time. Everybody loved my mother. Anybody who ever met her. I mean, people, I saw them at the funeral crying like babies. Women. Loads of them. So I understood certain things about women. I'm going to give you a crazy, I might get in trouble over this, but I'm going to give you a crazy example. I went to my friends and there was this good-looking woman. And I went to her and I bought her a drink and we were standing at a bar and I was talking to her. And we got pretty chummy right away. And I said, listen, I'm going to tell you this. We men, we have a thing that we see somebody as beautiful as you, we bullshit them like crazy. You come out, we open your door, we do all kinds of things. I'm going to be a little different. I don't love you. I'm not going to marry you. I'm not going to open your door, open your own door unless you're handicapped. All I want to do is make love to you. I want to have sex with you. She stood back and looked at me and said, wow, nobody ever talked to me like this. Let's go have fun. And I went with her. And when I went back with my guys and I said, what happened? They all laughed. Oh, wow. What a great line that is. I said, it's not a line. We bullshit them all the time. Do you think women don't understand after a while? They're full of shit. We're just looking to get into their pants and we're bullshitting them. We're open all kinds of bullshit. After you got laid, when you came out, how many doors did you open? No, fuck them. Let them open their own door.
So you just went with brutal honesty and it worked, right?
Honesty sometimes does everything. You know what I mean? It won't or another. So she had fun. I had fun. We became friends after. So it's, she wasn't used. She felt better about what she did. She had to be a little bit.
Yeah, I think that was that whole insight into human psychology motivations was a fascinating discussion that you did. I want to ask you about that time period. The 60s, 70s, 80s. You've come into a lot of influence, a lot of power within the organization. A big part of this was loyalty. loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. You had the oath, you had the omerta. When you started to lose people that you knew, there's a famous case of your close associate who ended up blown up, and you're having to sit there and hold him as he's dying. Did you begin to think, is there a crack in this fissure here? Is there really loyalty? Am I going to get screwed over? When did you start having any kind of doubts, or were you totally committed even when you saw your friends die?
No, I was totally committed, even when I saw him die, because that's part of the life. You live by the gun, you die by the gun. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. That's part of the life. I understood that. But there was betrayals in there. And, I started understanding, and I just about always understood it, I think, is that there was going to be good guys and bad guys. It happens no matter police, soldiers, you name it, teachers, I don't care what it is. There's always some good and some bad, or maybe a lot of good and some rotten apples. It's a given. It's just all the time. So I understood that. But the betrayal, the worst betrayal I got was with John Gotti. That it broke me. Because I loved the guy so much. I did everything. When he barked, I bit. I protected him. I killed for him. I rigged trials for him, threatening people, bribing people, doing everything under the sun. I couldn't imagine him betraying me. It's like you get a good woman and you give your whole heart to her, and vice versa. You never even imagine her betraying you. It's unimaginable. You have such a love and a trust bond with her. And then it just breaks where she did some of the most evil things you could possibly do to you. It just breaks you as a person. Now, people have different kind of breaking points in different things. Everyone is different. But to me, that's what happened with John Gotti. So I knew there was evil and good, and I always watched my back. I always played my little chess moves and stuff, but not with him. I didn't try to think in an evil way. I never thought of that. The thought never entered my mind. We took over the family. We killed the boss of bosses. We fought a war together. We did everything together. Went out with bros, and when we went out at night sometimes together, we did it all. And now that betrayal, that's the betrayal where I quit. At the end, and I was getting feedback. When I heard the tapes, they played in tapes in court, I was good. I mean, I didn't flip for 11 months when I got pitched with him. We were even in the same cell for a while. If his shoulders hurt, I would rub his shoulders, give him a massage. And when I heard the tapes, it just like betraying me behind my back, saying things that weren't true. And wanted to use those tapes that sounded bad about me, to use those tapes against me. That, Sammy, I'm going to have the lawyers use those tapes. You heard the tapes. You heard John Gotti complaining about him. He's greedy. He's selfish. He's killing people, taking over businesses, unions. Some of it's true. Most of it's not. I said, oh my God. This is the way you talked about me behind my back? And it killed me. It killed me to hear that.
So you felt like all of what you had committed to, all of that loyalty was a giant betrayal ultimately.
Absolutely. When I walked away from him, he said, here's what the lawyers are going to do. They're going to say, you hear John complaining about him. It's not John. Poor John Gotti. He lost control of this animal. And I told him face to face, you want that to happen? He said, Sammy, it has to happen. I'm the boss. The boss must go free. You're going to take the weight. I said, I'm not even on those tapes. You're talking about me. That's how I'm here. So when he told me right to my face, yeah, that I has to be that way. Okay. I didn't say anything. But as I walked away, I said, fuck the mob, fuck John Gotti. I quit. And I walked away. Now, a lot of people call you rat, call you whatever they want to call you. And I can care less. I don't know what other people would do if they were in my shoes. You know, I know a lot of people talk about black people, and I laugh. I got over 22 years in prison. I could talk to a black guy straight up. I'm not black, but I lived with you guys for 22 years. I went on visits with your families and me and you. I could talk about what you go through in life. However, the system is against you. So I understand those things. This here I couldn't understand. This betrayal broke me. And I joined the government on the other side. It's like a chess game. John was playing checkers, I was playing chess. That's your move, John? You sure? That's my move.
I got another question that always comes to mind. I've never asked anybody in your position this question. One thing, you're talking about putting yourself in other people's shoes. I felt like, and obviously I can't really understand, your life, your situation, but just hypothetically, when you were running guys, you had guys underneath you. How often were you paranoid or worried? Like, is this guy over here? I haven't seen him in a few days. Is he talking to the cops? Is the FBI talking? Was this something you just didn't really worry about, or was it a constant problem? Seems like if I was in your shoes, I would be feeling paranoid all the time. Did you feel that way, or was it not really a struggle?
No, I never felt that way. I was with my crew. They were with me day and there's so many stories where most people would from you, and they never did. I had trouble. I did a hit. Paul was calling it an off-the-record hit. Me and Louis Melita were in trouble. On my farm, I called my whole crew in. I said, none of you guys are involved. It's me and it's Louis. Even if the guys who were involved, they don't know. It's just me and Louis that he's got a hunt on for, not you guys. Here's why you're here today. If I disappear or I'm killed, or Louis, or both of us, I want your word that you will take care of my wife and my children. I want your word. Nobody left. Everybody I had their word, but they wouldn't even leave. No, Sammy, we'll get home. We'll get the shotguns. We'll get the pistols. We'll go to war. Fuck this. No, we're not going to go to war. We're not going to kill a whole bunch of people because we can't win and we're going to lose anyway. No, whatever happens to me and Louis, we took that on. We're the bosses. I'm the boss. And Louis' my right-hand man. He was made at that time. All I want is your word that you'll take care of my kids. That'll mean something to me more than anything right now. And nobody wanted to leave. And there's many situations like that. I had no paranoia with them whatsoever. Two guys in my crew, Nicky Cowboy, I grew up with him as a kid. He was drinks a lot, took drugs, dealt drugs. Years later, he got in trouble. I sat down for him because he wasn't with anybody. He was in a lot of trouble. He came to me. And I sat down for him. And I won the beef. And they let him go. They gave him a pass. They didn't kill him. And he came back to me in Tally's, where we used to hang out. And he said, Sammy, I want to be with you. I said, Nicky, I love you. You're a tough bastard. I love you. And I know you from when we were kids. But I got rules with my crew. You drink too much. Now, I'm not going to stop you from drinking. But you overdo it, and then you become like your nickname, Cowboy. You become a cowboy. You're always in fucking trouble. You slow up on your drinking and no drugs. No taking drugs or selling drugs. And you're in with me. But I will tell you this. If you give me your word and you break your word, I will kill you. You know me your whole life. No, I don't just threaten people. I'm telling you for a fact. It's not a threat. Yes, and I'm in. And he was dealing crack and taking it. Then he turned Michael the Bat on to crack and got hooked. When we found out, I have to worry about my whole crew. Now the thing is, when you're not you anymore. You're so involved in drugs. You're not you anymore. It's not this. I'm not talking to the same person anymore. And if you don't have enough money or you get caught and you don't have it, the guy will wave this little bag in front of your fucking face. You'll give up your mother. So you'll give me up and my whole crew. And I can't picture sitting in jail with my whole crew and telling them, Sammy, you knew that he was on crack and you didn't do something. What do I tell them? That's why we're here. Yeah, because I didn't do anything. So I wound up killing Nicky Cowboy and Michael the Bat, both of them. But there was a reason for it. That was my rule. You live by my rule or you die by it. And if they understood that and they gave me their word, that's what went on. But I never really had any. I had guys, my crew was so fucking loyal, it was ridiculous. And it's hundreds of stories. I could call them up 3 o'clock in the morning. Come on down, I need you right away. And they were down in 15 minutes. So I never walked around like that. Frankie the Chico or people I knew. And I never fucked nobody. Lied to them, bullshitted them, robbed them, cheated them. When you do that, you always have a guilt in your head. And you always think, what if he finds out? What if they find out? I didn't have that in my head. I didn't have fear. People said, what about fear? I didn't have fear because when I was young and I came into the life after my first hit, I said, one day I'll be killed or I'll go the rest of my life. Once I adjusted that in my head, I knew that's my future, period. So I was never afraid. If you cheat and lie and bullshit, yeah, you walk around with your own head puts that fear, your own mind. What if they know? There's nothing to know about me. I didn't go with anybody's wife. I never cheated anybody. I always gave them their fair. And a couple of times I was asked, we made 20,000. 5,000's got to go up to the boss, to go to the top, wherever it goes. Why don't we not even say this? Bro, we'll always be thinking, what if this comes out? What do we tell them? We were greedy. We cheated. What do we tell them? Before we die, what do we tell them? And maybe we don't have to tell them nothing. They'll just shoot us in the fucking head. So I didn't have those fears. And that's my reason I just kept it that way all the time. Now I'm going to give you one little short story about a friend of mine, Patty Crookedneck. One day he called me up and he said, Sammy, he had a bar on Bath Avenue, little bar. I used to go there and drink once in a while and see him. He had a son who was, kid was to sit on my lap, talk with me. I used to give him a gift, a little toy or something. He called me up and he said, Sammy, I got a serious, serious problem. Could you come down right away? You want me to come with my friend? My friend was a gun. You want me to come with my friend? He knew that. He said, no, it's not that kind of a problem. I got to think with cops. Please come down right away. I got in my car and I went down. What's the matter? He said, the local cops, some of them I got on the payroll, they told me that the DEA is scheduling to come down today and go through my whole place. I got 800 pounds of pot in my garage. 800 pounds? Yeah. All right, let's move it. I pull my car in there. I fill my trunk from one end to the other. The tire out, took everything out. Filled the whole damn thing. Closed it. Had trouble banging the hood to close it. The whole back seat from the floor to the seat to the ceiling. and the passenger seat from the floor to the seat to the ceiling, and a few packages under my legs. I said, if I get stopped, I am so fucking dead. I mean, I can't even open the window, the smell in here and everything like that. But I did it. I was broke back then. I was paying $300 a month rent. I was 3 months behind in rent, 2 or 3 months. And broke is broke. And I got this 800 pounds in my garage with the car. And back then, you get this little brown bag and you fill it with pot. They call it a nickel bag.
Yeah.
$5. And I broke it down, $5 a bag times 800 pounds. The number came to $350,000, $400,000. Now I'm talking 40, 50 years ago. It's like a couple of million now. So I said, wow, I'm no longer broke and I'm rich. One bullet in the head. Nobody knows. Only him and me. And I'm rich overnight. One bullet. It's not like I've never done that. I just couldn't do it. So he called me up and he said, Sammy, come. I went down and I said, how did it go? Great. I cleaned it up. I put sprays. I did every fucking thing. Nothing. I passed with flying colors. You're the best friend a guy could have. I said, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? I said, Patty, I was thinking of killing you. And I wind up with this money. And I'm broke. I came close. So I'm really not the best friend you could have. I'll never forget the way he looked at me. He said, but you didn't kill me. And you're giving me all the stuff back. Yeah. I didn't even take a nickel bag, nothing. The following day, he called me up. And he came by me. And he gave me an envelope of $5,000. Again, it's not a big number now, but back then, the rent, I paid the rent and I had some money and whatever. Life is good. But I looked in the mirror and I said, how the fuck will I ever be able to look at myself in a mirror when a guy who thinks you're the best fucking friend he could ever have, and you killed him? You're not a good friend, you're a scumbag. And that's what I would have myself all my life. There's many times I looked at that story in my head and I said, oh, thank God. God, thank God I didn't do that. Because I'd never be able to look at myself in the mirror. Anybody who ever called me a fucking friend who was shaking my hand, I would be saying to myself, yeah, friend, give me 800 pounds of pot, or give me a couple 100,000 and show you what kind of good friend I am. So, thank God I did that. And that's how I lived my life. I think that's how I got through my life. And I'm able to look at myself. I tell a lot of people, look at yourself in the mirror. You don't need anybody to tell you what you are, who you are, good guy, bad guy, all this bullshit. Look in the mirror. The mirror will tell you what you are. So, that's what I did in life. I have just become a born again.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that next, since you mentioned your life and where it's come, where you're at. How did that come about?
It came about, like I said, I always thought about all these things. I always believed in God. I don't believe in churches. I walked away from churches and things like that. I think they're organizations. They did some horrible things. I would tell a priest, tell me about your sins. I would tell him, no, fuck about yours, bro. I know what you do. So I wasn't a church guy. And I didn't read the Bible much, but I always believed in God. And I'm doing movies and a scripted show, Story of My Life, the Johnny Keys movie. I'm doing a bunch of things. So when I went there, I made friends with a whole bunch of people. And Sunday would come up and they'd say, Sammy, we're all going to go to church Sunday. Come with us. I like to joke and whatever. I said, listen, I haven't been in church in about 40 years. The church may burn down. You sure you want me to come? They laughed. And I went. I went to this born-again Christian church, the Ocean Church in California. And I don't know, I got a tremendous vibe. I liked the guy. He was talking truth, joking every once in a while. It was so different than church. Half the times I went to regular Catholic church, I didn't even know what the priest was saying. He mumbling things, I didn't even know what he was talking about. I went on 3 different occasions back and forth to California. Every time we went. By the 3rd time, I was telling them, are we going to church tomorrow? And they would say, yeah, we're going. And I would go. I got really good vibes with it. Then I found out the pastor had made a comment to the church about me being in his audience. And then he wanted to talk to me. I made an appointment with him when I was down there, and I said, okay. I went with Anna, was with me. Went for Hollywood stuff. And we met with him on a Monday. He bought breakfast, and he talked to me, and he talked to me about how he knows how I life and this and that and the other thing, and talked to me about becoming a born-again Christian, and that he would baptize me. And I thought about it. I said, let me get back to you. I'm not sure. But there's so many things that happened, good things. I was shot 2 times in my life, stabbed once. I always felt that, what do I have, a guardian angel? I keep escaping death. I had cancer 3 times. So I said, what brought me to this church? What brought me to this pastor? Why do I feel so good about it? Why do I feel like doing this at this point in my life? I'm fucking 79 years old. And I said, it must be God and Jesus, because that's what they, preach all the time. And I got back to him and said, yes, I'll do it. I didn't want to do it on a beach in front of hundreds of people with cameras and cops and everybody. I didn't want to make a spectacle out of it. I said, I'll do it in a private way. So he said, I got a friend of mine who owns a beautiful home. We could do it in his home. I said, okay. We'll do it on September 1st. So when I made my trip for my, Hollywood people and my meetings and stuff like that, on September 1st, I went to his house. It's not his house, it's his friend's house. And I did it. And he was a good guy. You could joke with him and everything. When he was going to dunk me into the water, he put his hand on my chest and one on my back. And he said, I knew what he was going to do. Are you ready? I said, yeah. But you see a couple of guys I brought? A couple of them have guns. If I'm not up out of that water in 30 seconds, you'll get shot. He busted out. He said, Sam, you got a good sense of humor. And they pushed me under the water. And he was praying for me, that I buried my sins in that water and I came up. I was looking straight and thinking of things that would just happen. And when I looked down, my hands were out like this in front of me. Now, I thought, why did you put your hands out? I didn't put them out like that. Not realizing, I obviously did, but it was to receive Jesus and my new life. And I just felt that way. Now I'm waiting for a tape. I thought he was going to have a couple of people with cameras. He had a film crew from Hollywood that does movies. Must have had $1 million worth of equipment. I was blown away when I saw it. And I did an interview with him. And we talked, and he said, Sammy, one of the questions I remember, he said, bring yourself back to 35 years old. And I'm asking to baptize you, to become a born again Christian. What would you say? No, absolutely not. I was so dedicated to the Mafia and so blinded by everything. I would have said no. So you changed your life. And I told him I changed my life when I walked away from the Mafia, knowing I would probably be killed. I didn't care anymore. I wanted to, whether it was 5 minutes, 5 years, or until the day I die. I changed my life then. And you're right. I've changed my life now again to become a born again Christian.
Wow, that's a crazy life. I mean, you just had a wild story. I mean, getting to that topic of kind of being providentially kept from being killed in so many instances. I know that this is a little off topic, but one of the first things I thought of when we had that recent Trump assassination attempt, I thought of you, because I thought you would know best, like what would happen in this situation, how it might go down. Do you mind me asking about that? Because we had such a great conversation right when that happened. You said, this has to be an assassination attempt because I know exactly how it would have gone down. Here's what they would have done. Could you speak to that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Listen, I'm more in line of what happened to it than ever before, and I'm in the same place. This was an assassination attempt. They get this kid, he can't hit the side of a barn. They bring him to a rifle club. He couldn't hit the side of a barn. They threw him out of the club. He's a goofball. He's the perfect sacrificial lamb. I don't know how they get him to talk to him, money or whatever they did, that he's going to be on the roof. He's on the roof with a rifle. Maybe he shoots. There's people who got shot way away from Trump. This moron probably hit them by accident. But the guy who shot at Trump, the assassin, when you look at where Trump got hit in his ear. Now, Trump, he had a blessing from God. He was talking about a chart that was on the wall. And he turned like this, and he got hit right in the ear, side of the ear. Now, if he didn't turn, put your face back. He gets hit right between the eyes. That was the assassin. The turning of his face for that split second is what saved him. Now, automatically, as soon as Trump is hit in the ear, shoot the kid and kill him. They do that because now we go into a JFK thing. Trump was shot. They was wishing he was dead. And the kid, we shot him right away. And here's his history. He gave some money to the Democratic Party, gave some money to the Republican Party. He's a wacko. And we go on forever talking about hypothetical shit. This was a professional job. Now, people saw him on the roof. There's tapes, there's people screaming. There's a guy on the roof with a rifle. A cop climbs up. He sees the kid points. He comes down. The building that he's on top of, all cops are on the inside, their headquarters. They told the Secret Service. Everybody was told to back off. Because this kid was supposed to be there, supposed to die there. He's the sacrificial lamb. The actual shooter, who it is still not known. We probably won't know who he is. That was a professional hit. Now, you look at the Secret Service they put around him. Oh, we need to have everybody, gays, women, every fucking body. So we hired. The worst of the worst that they have, they put around him. There was a woman. She took out a gun. She tried to put it back. She couldn't even get it back in a holster.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have some ex-Navy SEAL guys, Rangers or something who becomes service, and they're around him. They're all over him. The girls actually stumbled over him because he fell down. And he gets up and puts his hand, fight, fight, fight. This is as professional as it could be. The only thing is, for a matter of inches, he's alive. He's not dead. People, the head of the Secret Service, can't even answer questions. They stepped down, and another one took over. Without a doubt, in my mind, as a professional hit guy, that's about as professional as it gets, other than a slight little bullshit movement of his face. Otherwise, he was hit right between the eyes. He's dead. And we talk about it for 100 years. Nobody ever knows who did it. He did it. We shot him. It's him. Close the case. Even if we don't close the case, we're just bullshitting about it for years and years and years, just like JFK. So, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah, so many parallels to JFK, and you and I in the past we did over on your channel, and people can go to Sammy's Patreon. I'll have the links below. He's got a lot of new material. He's redoing the Patreon. We did a discussion of the Mafia, JFK, CIA, all of that stuff. Marilyn Monroe. People can go watch that there. You recently went to a Trump rally, as I understand. Did you want to comment on that? What you're doing with your Patreon?
Yeah, I went. Let me start off with the rally. I went to the rally. I had a Trump shirt on, me and Trump, two convicted felons on the shirt. So I went there and I got a pass. I know some people who were close to him. What is that? A guest pass? A special guest pass. So we're right in the front, 2 rows or 3 rows ahead of us. There's governors and mayors and people of that. 3 rows behind them, there's me. And a couple of things happened. When I first walked in, a tall, good-looking guy, well-dressed, he calls me by my name. He says, Sammy, step to the side. I'm Secret Service. I said, okay. I figured he wants to search me. He recognized, obviously, said my name, so he recognized who I am. So I said, okay, you want to search me? As soon as we got on the side. He said, no. Then why are we on the side? He says, I want a selfie. I want a selfie. A Secret Service guy. I laughed my ass off. That never happened to me in my life. So anyway, we were there. The people were great. The people who talked were great. And we were having a good time. I went with my son, with Anne, and we bought hot dogs and popcorn and shit. It was great. People would come. Must have did about 150 selfies, without a doubt. And all of a sudden, a news guy came over to me. He recognized me from NBC. And he says, wow, Sammy, you're here. You a Trump supporter? I said, in a way, yeah. And he looked at my shirt, showed him the shirt, 2 convicted felons, my picture when I got arrested, his picture when he got arrested, and he's taking pictures of my shirt. What I'm going to do, I got the shirt here. There it is. So it's my face and his face.
Nice.
Together. And now NBC called me up and they said, listen, we'd like to come down and do an interview with you. I said, okay, this was what, last week? Mm-hmm. Yeah, last week. So they came down, they did an interview. It's supposed to be local after a football game, and they brought it back to their bosses. And their bosses said, oh, wow, this is a tremendous interview. I think we want to go national with it. So we told them, all right, it makes no difference to me. However you want to do it, edit it, do what you want, give me a copy and do it. And they're doing it. But let me get back to the day I'm at the place. Somebody comes over to me and he says, Sammy, there's somebody here would like to see you. I said, who? He said, Joe Arpaio, Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Now, it brought back memories to me right away when I was arrested in Arizona. He was a real hardcore sheriff. We had to wear pink underwear, pink T-shirts to just make us, look stupid or whatever. And he gave me an extra hard time. He was a hardcore sheriff. But I changed my life, so I wanted to say, okay. I mean, I'll talk with him. Where is he? He's on the other side. And I didn't know how it would go. I do have a little bit of a temper. And so I didn't know how it was going to go. But I didn't go over with a negative attitude. I said, let me just go over, say hello. And I did. Now, he's 92 years old. I'm 79, he's 92. I never abused somebody who's older than me, old man or stuff. And to me, he's an old man. It's 92. So I was a bit respectful. As soon as I heard his age, I was very respectful. He said, as soon as I walked over, he says, you're still alive? I said, yep. Yes, I am. You too. He's up at 92. He's still alive.
Yeah.
So we talked and we bullshitted, and he was very humble, polite, almost apologetic of things. And so I talked nice to him. I didn't get out of line. I respected his age. And what he did back then, that's back then. I don't want to walk around with negativity in my heart all the time. So I just put all that shit. It happened. It's in the back. He's acting like, okay. And unbeknownst to me, people were taking pictures of it and all kinds of shit. I mean, there's 23,000 people there. I didn't know who's doing what. And he put his hand out. I looked at it for a second or two, and I grabbed it. I smiled at him. I shook his hand. And I said, that's all behind us, bro. You're a good man, Sammy. You too, Joe. And we separated. My daughter wrote something. Do we have what she wrote? Mm-hmm. I'm going to have Anna read this, if you don't mind. What my daughter wrote about that.
Pull that up with Sheriff Joe?
Yeah. Yeah, the thing with Sheriff Joe. I think it's on Gerard's. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And for those that don't know, Sheriff Joe Arpaio has a reputation for being a really kind of rigid guy when it comes to the people, incarcerated underneath him. Sean Atwood, who he and I have done a lot of interviews, and he always talked about how hardcore Arpaio was.
Oh, he was brutal. He gave me a real tough time. So Anna has this. I want to, while we're talking about him.
I just sent it to Jay. Do you want Jay to read it out loud on the interview?
Yeah. Could you send it to Jay? Mm-hmm. Jay, we're going to send the message to you so you can read it out loud.
Okay. It says, the extraordinary, unexpected meeting between two men whose lives once stood in stark contrast. Sammy the Bull Gravano, the notorious Mafia underboss, and Sheriff Joe Arpaio, the hard-nosed lawman known for his tough on-crime policies in Arizona. Over 25 years, Sheriff Joe played a pivotal role in Sammy's incarceration, famously overseeing a prison system where inmates were forced to wear pink underwear and endure brutal conditions. At the time, Sheriff Joe made it clear that criminals like Sammy deserved no leniency, and he was relentless in his pursuit of justice. At a Trump rally of all places, Sammy and Sheriff Joe come face to face for the first time since those days. Sammy, having served his time and reflected on his past, approaches life with a new outlook. He's no longer the ruthless gangster he once was, but a man trying to make peace with his past. Sheriff Joe, known for his staunch and often controversial methods, has softened with age and experience, realizing the complexities of the people he once condemned so harshly. The two, as they talk, laugh, and finally shake hands, an act that symbolizes not just forgiveness, but the unexpected ways people can change. Their meeting is a powerful testament to the possibility of change, even in the unlikeliest of people. It's a story about the human capacity for growth, redemption, and the ways in which time can heal even the deepest wounds. The Trump rally, in some sort of way, was was a way to say people can come together and put America first.
Yeah. So when my daughter saw that, she knew she when when she heard I was going over to him, she must have said, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
my father, here he goes again." So, but it
She
didn't.
thought you're going to be back in the Supermax.
Yeah, probably.
All right, well,
But
I don't want to keep you too long. We've gone for an hour, almost hour and a half. I'm going to have all the links below. Is there anything upcoming you want to promote to my audience over here on YouTube and Twitter and everywhere else?
well, I did a documentary with my son and my daughter, and it was supposed to come out September 26th, 28th on Max. They just moved it to January. I have no control over that. So in January, that'll come out. I'm working on two movies. One is the Johnny Keys, and one is the scripted story of my life. I'm going into contracts and things, and I can't talk too much about it now. When it gets a little further on, when Hollywood lets it out, and you want to talk to me again, I'll talk to you and I'll discuss it with you and stuff like that. And we're reconstructing our Patreon page, and where we're uncensored. It's behind the wall. We could say what we want and do what we want. From time to time, I'll do shows with my daughter, with my son. Sometimes the whole three of us. Sometimes one at a time, or whatever. We'll be on the top tier of that, and we're gonna do all of our stuff that we put out, especially the controversial stuff about politics and stuff like that. It'll be on that show. So we're going to send out notices of that when we get it completely done. Probably another couple of weeks or a month, it'll be done, and we'll be talking about that and putting it out. So anytime you want to reach me, it's easy. You could put my links on there, and if they want to reach me or whatever. We also have a Monday Live, which I have fun with. I mean, I have a blast, and people talk. They ask me questions, and they do things and stuff. And that's what I do. I answer their questions. When the question comes up, the girls read it, and I answer it. And we have all kinds of fun with it. And we do all kinds of little gimmicky things that, you could win my hat. I made a mistake. I put my hat, the one I really like, we put it up, and we ask a question. However many people answer it, one of those people win, and then you would win my hat. And at the end, I was so bad. I said, could I switch it? I like this hat. So they said, that's the hat you said you were give them that hat. So I gave them the hat. It was the best hat I had. And this month here, we're doing a picture of Al Capone that I did. And we play games with it. We talk. We have fun. The people talk to each other, and they enter. And I also have another girl working for me, a girl named Sterling, a young girl, and she wanted to add it with TikTok. So at the same time, it's being on Patreon, it's on TikTok, and we wound up getting a fairly big audience on TikTok. And even there, because I don't know how to do any of this tech stuff, Sterling said, I could make it where they ask you questions live. So I said, well, we're doing the other part live. Yeah, go ahead. So the TikTok people come in. So I have my Patreon, my YouTube audience and my TikTok audience at the same time, and I'm mingling them together. We tell them, come on, TikTok is the Patreon, the YouTube is beating you. Come on, put it. And we play and we have fun with it. So we do that every Monday. We call it Monday Live.
Yes. It's a great show. I've listened to a lot of your live streams, and I'll have the links to the TikTok and everything below. All right, thank you very much, Sammy. I appreciate it. It was a great hour and a half, killer interview, and we look forward to talking to you again in the future.
And that'll happen because you're a great guy, bro. And we did things together. And next thing we'll do is a bank robbery.
Okay, sounds good. We'll have to do it over in Arizona under Joe Arpaio. Now that he's lightened up, he won't be so hard on us if we do it there.
Yeah, we won't wear pink underwear. No, I'm only kidding. You can cut that out. All right.
All right, thank you, Sammy.